Welcome to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real, the podcast where people like you get the practical solutions and support you need to permanently lose the physical and mental weight so you can feel better and live the life you really want to live in the body and mind you really want to be living in. If you're looking to overcome your stress eating, overeating, binging behaviors, and move to a place of food and body freedom, as well as find more meaning and more moments of joy in life, you are in the right place. All right. So, as promised, here is Risa Groux. And Risa, do you want to just give us a little bit more? The audience has heard a little background on you, but maybe a little bit more detail as to what kind of got you started in regards to, I know you're very functionally medicine minded, and I know you do a lot with autoimmune. So, can you tell us kind of what got that all started for you?
Yeah, well, I innately I always had an interest in the way we eat. I was always fascinated because I grew up in a house where everybody was on a diet. My mother was
Oh,
always trying
yeah.
to lose 5 to 10 pounds. My grandmother was
Yeah.
always losing those 5 to 10 pounds, and she would go to the fat farm, is what she called it, every year. And I
Right.
thought,
Oh,
what
boy. Yeah.
right? So I learned it was, Canyon Ranch Spa, which she would go religiously every
Oh.
year. And it was this
Mm-hmm.
focus on weight loss and, oh, I'm on a diet and these foods are bad and these foods are good. And I'm like,
Mm.
what? Those bad foods taste pretty good to me. I'm not sure why they're so bad. So
Right.
I'm just,
Right.
I grew up with a lot of food confusion. So
You bet.
I always analyzing food and always, very hypersensitive about my weight. And so I ate really clean, and I always did the
Mm.
new diet, whatever that was. It was the no fat, it was
Right.
whatever it was. I did it. And then I got married and I had a baby. And right away we conceived immediately, and
Mm.
so no problem. And when we were trying to conceive our second, I wasn't able to conceive. And then when I did, I would
Mhm.
lose the baby. So I
Oh,
went to a
yeah.
fertility specialist and went down that road. And, he did labs and said, oh, you have a low thyroid. Like, why do I have this
Mhm.
underachieving thyroid? And he just wrote me a script and he said, here, just take this. And I said, for how long? He goes, every day. And I said, no, no, for how long? He said, oh, for the rest
Yeah.
of your life. I thought, why do I need something synthetic to produce something that my body was born to produce? Why is that? Why
Right.
is my body not producing this? So that really kicked off a whole journey for me. And I matched that with my love and fascination of food and health. And I became a functional nutritionist.
Yeah. That's, well, it's not, I mean, that's so, for so many of us, the journey that we all go on where we're actually personally affected by something and then become passionate about that. And you were able, if I'm, because I've listened to you talk, you were able to reverse that, right? Your thyroid stuff.
Correct. My
Yeah.
Hashimoto's, yes. I was having
Yeah.
antibodies that were attacking my thyroid, and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I could
Mm-hmm.
not at that time find a list of root causes of why I would have gotten Hashimoto's. So I created one. I went down every rabbit hole for years,
Mm-hmm.
and I put it together. I put it in my book, Food Frame, so that
Oh,
people can
yeah.
have
Yeah.
it easily accessible. But a third of it is genetics, and then there's the second major part is leaky gut. And so
Right.
I do stool testing with everybody I work with, and I cannot tell you how many people have leaky gut because
I'm
it's so
sure.
fragile, right? We only have one layer of
Mm-hmm.
epithelial cells to protect us in our gut, so that we have so many toxins and offenders that are coming through the intestinal lining. So it's very common to have leaky gut. And then there's other factors like toxins and pathogens and viruses and low vitamin D and a gene mutation that I test everybody for called MTHFR.
Mm-hmm.
And those
Mm-hmm.
are typically the root causes. And so I addressed each and every single one of them. Oh, and high levels of
Oh,
mercury.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did all of those. It took me years to do it and change
That's
my
what I was
diet.
gonna ask, what the timeline was like. Yeah. Takes a
Yeah.
while,
Years. Yeah. Yeah. Years.
but so worth
So
it.
totally worth it. Totally worth it for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Could we maybe go down the road of the leaky gut thing a little bit
Yeah.
more? That's definitely, you know, in the nutrition space, that is definitely talked about and thrown around a lot. And you just described a little bit of what that is. But maybe could you talk a little bit? I think, I mean, I so agree that it affects so many people.
Mhm.
How would someone maybe know that they're experiencing that?
There are some symptoms. I mean, if you are having some bloating, now it doesn't always
Hmm.
necessarily mean leaky gut. It could mean SIBO or it could mean a lack of digestive enzymes, but bloating is one. Acne, a lot of
Oh,
acne could be also parasites or overgrowth, a lot of bad bacteria overgrowth, but skin
sure.
issues can be leaky gut for sure. And then diarrhea, if you're having, not regular bowel movements, not necessarily
Hmm.
constipation so much, but things like that, uh,
Yeah.
where you have food sensitivities that you didn't realize. You have a lot of inflammation. Those are some
Yeah.
symptoms that you would most likely have leaky gut.
Okay. And then what would be like first line of defense for someone dealing with that? Like, how do you work with your clients? Like, where do you kind of go from there?
So everybody I work with, no matter what, gets a comprehensive blood screen. So I'm looking for everything, all inflammation markers and blood sugars and all 4 markers of blood sugars, all 9 markers of thyroid, all kinds of stuff, white blood cell percentages, all those kinds of things. And then I send everybody home with a stool test. So
Mm,
a stool test shows over 84 pathogens. And it also tells us if you have any trouble absorbing your fats, any inflammation in the intestinal lining. And then I look at a marker for leaky gut. I look at how you
mm,
do with gluten, if you have some gluten sensitivity to particular protein in gluten. And that picture gives me a really good idea of if you have a lot of bad bacteria overgrowth, if you have any good gut bacteria, and so on
hmm.
and so forth. All those other things that I mentioned, parasites, worms, yeast, H. pylori is
Mm,
a big factor as well. So it might not just necessarily be leaky gut. It could be just an overgrowth. I'm working with somebody right now
right.
who has really high levels of E. coli, which we don't see
Mm,
often. But really, really high
hmm.
levels. Just chronic pain in
Oh,
the stomach,
wow.
diarrhea, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so I look at all those things to determine if there is leaky gut. And once I find that there is leaky gut, you can repair. It takes time,
Hmm.
but you got to get the
Hmm.
offenders out, the bread, sugar, dairy, alcohol, the
Right.
toxins. And what happens typically are these undigested proteins go through these gaping holes that are in the intestinal lining. Because as I said, we only have one layer of epithelial
Yeah.
cells to protect us, right? We have villi there to protect that, but it's really, really, really fragile. We have 7 layers of epithelial cells on our outside skin. So
Right. Right.
it's really very, very fragile. And once we poke holes in there, these undigested proteins will go in, or toxins or pathogens that go in. And the body says, "Who are you? You're the enemy. You're coming in through the back door." And it creates antibodies. That's our
Mm,
defense system, right? That's how we protect ourselves. And those antibodies create inflammation and food intolerances. So when I first started my practice, I would have everybody come in and be like, "Okay, let's test you for food allergies." And
right.
everybody
Right.
has some, right? And then I realized, what am I doing? This is like backwards, because basically the food
Yeah.
allergies are the symptom, or the root cause. It's
Hmm.
just the symptom of the root cause, and the root cause is really leaky gut. So we look at that, and then eventually, if you keep doing this and you have this leaky gut, and then you keep going through this inflammation cycle, then eventually you'll get diagnosed with an autoimmune disease typically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, right. And then do you kind of start out, is it usually the food that you hit first for those people then, like where you're talking about eliminating some things from the diet? I know that like I said, I've listened to some of your stuff, so I know you do some detox protocols. Is that kind of where that would fall into place?
I pretty much detox everybody I work with, on rare exceptions. If they are really, really, really sick and they just can't handle it, I don't. I'll get to it later.
Sure. Yeah.
Build them up first. But technically, yes, typically I do. A 2-week detox program. It's a detox I've created that is really, really helpful for decreasing systemic inflammation, increasing good gut health, but it really helps clean out the liver very gently so that you
Mm-hmm.
can. The liver is really the key to the castle, right? And so if we keep
Mm-hmm.
giving all this work to the liver, it gets very sluggish. And it could be fatty
Right.
liver without drinking any alcohol, non-fatty fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and so it does not work optimally. So yeah, I'm typically doing that, and when I put somebody on a detox, worked already taking away all these other the bad foods,
Uh-huh.
or
Yeah.
the inflamed foods, and so
Mm-hmm.
they're feeling better. Yes, they lose weight, but it's not a weight loss
Mm-hmm.
program. I focus on wellness. I always say weight loss is a side effect of wellness. So it's
I know. I
really
love
their,
that. I've heard you say that. Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think it's the first step in their wellness program to just be giving good foods in and lots of fiber and protein and good fats and things that are going to love the body and not harm the body. And then
Yeah.
while cleaning out the liver, and then people feel great. They have everybody says to me, I
Right.
feel less puffy, and they
Yes.
lose weight.
Yeah. And probably so much energy and
Exactly. Energy is like bouncing off the walls, and sleep is great, and skin is good, and all that stuff. So
yeah,
it's my
that is
first
awesome.
course of action. Yeah.
Yeah, love it, love it. So if we move back to the thyroid, and I'm going to be real honest, this is I'm totally being selfish here because I have dealt with a thyroid issue for the last 4 or 5 years. So I know that's a little bit of your specialty. So do you deal with people ever like with reverse T3 thyroid stuff?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So reverse
yeah,
teeth, we
okay,
look at all 9 markers of the thyroid. So because it's,
yeah,
you know, I explain the system like this. If you ever take your kids and you go to the science museum and you start on the third floor and you drop a ball down the track, and it goes
hmm
down the track and it rings the bell and it goes through the tunnel and it goes through dominoes and 2 minutes later it lands in a cup. That's
right,
exactly how complicated your thyroid is. It has to have all these
yeah,
systems to end up in the cup, right? So
yeah,
if the ball is not ending up in the cup, we tend to throw more balls at the top. Because I'm
mhm,
sure if I throw more balls down this track, I have a higher percentage, a higher likelihood of getting that ball into the cup. That's what our body
right,
does. That's what our pituitary does in our brain. So, but there's so many systems. My question is, well, is it getting through the dominoes? Is it getting through the
yeah,
tunnel? Is it ringing the bell? Is it, what's happening? What are the mechanisms that are taking place? And why is it not getting into the cup? It's not just a matter of giving it more balls, right? Something's wrong with
right,
this. So one of the things that we look at that could be taking this ball off course is reverse T3. And reverse
hmm
T3, we like that number typically with most labs and LabCorp for sure, 15, 14, 13, 12. And when
yeah.
reverse goes higher, that means we're pulling from our T3 stores, right? And
Mhm.
why are we pulling it? Because we're in some state of distress, and it's caused
Yeah.
by either high cortisol production, which is our stress hormone. Is that you?
Mhm.
And
Oh,
then
that I was over exerciser for years and just yeah, I know why I got into the situation I did.
yep. So there
Yeah.
you go. And then the other one is inflammation. So we look
Yeah.
at CRP or C-reactive protein, and we look
Mhm.
at um, homocysteine. And both of
Mhm.
those are really two major inflammatory markers. There's others, but those are the two major ones. And if you're elevated on those, it can affect your thyroid. One of the
Mhm.
things, one of the pillars that we look at in functional medicine or functional nutrition is we base it on the fact that the body is one whole interconnective unit. And this
Mhm.
couldn't
Mhm.
be a better example of that because our lifestyle, our stress, or our inflammation affect
Yeah,
our thyroid, right? So reverse
definitely.
T3 is a really big one. And I don't see any conventional doctors, any of them test for that.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
went through good 5 or 6 doctors who would only test my TSH. I mean, even with me asking, "Can you please order these labs? I will pay out of pocket." I finally had to pay, it's a cash basis only functional medicine clinic that would run all the labs that I knew I needed and finally was able then to start figuring this all out. But it's
Right.
sad to me. It's
It's
like
very
all these
sad.
people I'm sure who are like me dealing with something, maybe not reverse T3, but lots of thyroid stuff. But then you can't find anyone to help you really figure it out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't know how much the conventional medicine community actually knows because they're not really being taught
Right.
this in law in medical
Exactly.
school.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
really fault the doctors for not knowing,
I
but it's
agree. I agree.
system. It's supported by our insurance companies because they don't want to pay
Hmm.
for more labs, so they don't
Exactly.
even talk about it. So it's just a bad
Yep.
paradigm that we have in conventional medicine, unfortunately, which was the
Great way to
reason
put it.
for functional medicine. Yeah. So reverse is one, and the other one is T3 uptake. And T3
Yeah.
uptake is about our sex hormones. How does our sex hormones,
Hmm.
they compete for the cell site for the
Hmm.
thyroid. So if you have an imbalance of estrogen for women, right, you could have
Right.
an excess of testosterone as well. And that is going
Yeah.
to affect your thyroid. So
Yeah.
again, that's something I look at for every single person I work with.
I really love how I really appreciate how you do use a lot of testing in regards to just let's figure out exactly what's going on versus kind of taking shots from the hip of like, yeah, let's try this, let's try that. I found for me with everything I've worked through over the last 4 or 5 years, like really, I mean, testing, I test every 6 weeks because I'm working really hard to get off medication. I've been on medication now for 5 years and I've been able to reduce. So I'm very, very proud and
Great.
happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so awesome. But I do find I have to test about every 6 weeks because I can start to feel like when things are not working. So I know what that feeling is like. I had like zero T3 forever, so, but that testing piece is so helpful. And, it's money and it's out of pocket, but I just always think in the long run, I'm figuring this out now so that I'm not paying for healthcare costs down the road. So
Absolutely.
I know you do a lot of testing. I really appreciate that you do that because I think it's like I said, you're not shooting from the hip. It's like, you know what you're going for.
Well, I always say that I'm not really good at playing darts with the lights off and I cannot see the target. Like, I don't know anybody who's
Right.
going to get a bullseye
Exactly.
in the dark, right? So I have to see what
Exactly.
I'm doing. What does it look like? How am I going to do my strategy to get to that target and get a bullseye, right? So I don't
Exactly.
work blindly. And unfortunately, conventional medicine does a fair amount of guessing, which is
Yeah.
really a shame. But yeah, I don't do that. And I don't also over test, which I find that a lot of practitioners will
Right.
do that as well. I
Sure.
don't order a
Sure.
million labs. Unless you want them, I will, or I see cause
Right.
to. Once you get your initial
Yeah.
and if further testing, then I recommend that. But
Yeah.
I mean, I remember leaving a functional medicine doctor years and years and years ago, and I was like, I think I just spent
Oh,
$4,000.
yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. It goes the other way as well, for
right.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you have a
many,
nice
many.
balance, which is great, which is great.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that, yeah, I'm just getting enough that gives us plenty of information. And as I said, if we need more, then we go.
Yeah, got it. Got it. Okay, so if we go back to, the role of kind of diet, I mean, I've heard you say you believe that really, like, especially diabetes, like that can all be reversed. Do you
For sure.
believe like all autoimmune can be reversed? And maybe just speak to a little bit how diet does influence autoimmune disease.
Yeah. So, do I believe that all autoimmune could be reversed? Probably not all. No.
Yeah. Okay.
I think once you're celiac, that's going to be tough to reverse that.
Yeah.
But I don't, I would never say never. And I actually did
Sure.
work with someone who was diagnosed with celiac. And when I got the labs back, I was like, I don't think so. So,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't show that way. So, but can you reverse many of them? Absolutely. And basically, what autoimmunity is when you're creating these antibodies and it thinks it's in the state of attack and it finds a gland, a tissue, or an organ in which to attack. And so it could be, your muscles for fibromyalgia, it could be your joints for rheumatoid arthritis. And I work with a ton of people with rheumatoid arthritis, and
Mm.
their pain basically, if not fully diminishes, it's gone. And because
That's wonderful.
what drives that is our Th17. And so we
Mhm.
all have these Treg cells. These are our immune system. And we have Th1 and Th2, and we go from being dominant to Th1 and Th2 as well, in a course of a life. And what happens is when we are in this, when we create these antibodies, our Th17 gets activated. And when Th17 gets activated, it creates what's called a cytokine storm. We heard about cytokines during COVID, and those are inflammatory enzymes that are basically causing all this inflammation. And if we have leaky gut, we're going through the leaky gut, and then it's a cytokine storm. So it's this cycle. So we put a dam on that leaky gut, right? Where I'm always working on the gut and to prevent it from being leaky or reversing that, so that we stop that cycle. And then we start to lessen those antibodies, those inflammation triggers. So what I do is I take out the foods that are going to cause inflammation, like bread, sugar, dairy, and alcohol. When I say bread, that means gluten. And then most dairy, I remove for sure. And then depending on how severe it is, I'm taking out nightshades, which have very high lectins. Those are eggplant, peppers, tomatoes, and eggplant, goji berries. And so we remove all the inflammation or the foods that are causing the inflammation. And then I give them my Fab5, which is for inflammation. So that is omegas, glutathione, which is our master antioxidant, turmeric, resveratrol, and vitamin D. Those are our major Fab5. So somebody who has autoimmunity is going to be on my Fab5. I take my Fab5 as well because I'm always trying to quell my inflammation. And it seems to do the trick. So that's how and then we take out the other sources. And if I'm testing for pathogens in the gut, and for viruses, I'll see in the blood system usually, or bacteria infections, those things, there's parasites that can cause Hashimoto's. Right. So there's things that are affecting your thyroid that we don't look at in conventional medicine, that I'm always looking at the root cause. Why is this happening?
Yeah, such a great way to go at it. Do you find that your patients have like when you throw in the different food protocols or some of the elimination diet type stuff, like what are some of the challenges that your patients maybe face in trying to just, I'm always coaching people with, like, a lot of them know the whys, like, or work with someone like you and get the whys, like why we need to do this and what we need to do. Do you have challenges with getting them to actually do it? Or do you find most of your patients are like, no, I'm ready to do anything?
A little bit of a mix. I would say by the time they come to me, they're definitely ready to make a change.
And that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Pain is the greatest motivator. And I would think, why invest in this process? Because it's testing and supplements and, most is out of pocket. Some stuff I can run through insurance if they take it. But by the time they get to me, they're really, I'm working with somebody right now she's late 30s, and she's got 3 kids, and she's just in major pain all the time, or I should say she was major pain. So she couldn't really function. So she is super motivated. And it's so funny. The last time I talked to her, she's virtually out of pain. So it's so fun for me to watch people heal. It's really, really, really great. So they're pretty motivated.
Yeah, got it. If you do ever have someone who maybe has difficulty with it, implementing a new way of eating or eliminating some things, do you have a way to kind of move them through that? Is that more of a where you guys are talking about this, like, or is it kind of just like, well, you get to choose if you do this or not, you're going to feel better or not?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'll say, you're in the ring with Muhammad Ali. How many gloves do you want? Like if I'm in that ring with Muhammad Ali, I'm going to take 2, if not more, right? So
right. Yeah.
And you have a fire in your basement. You have a raging fire. And chances are you went to the doctor and they gave you a squirt gun, right? We got to get the fire hose out, and we got to get that fire out and feel better. Now, everybody is different. So I work with everybody individually. So some people are like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Other people are like, you're going to take my wine from me.
I know.
People have a very major attachment to their wine. So for those people, we can go a little bit slower, or whether it's their bread or their stuff, or, and usually
Sure.
once I give them the information that let's read that label of that coffee creamer that you're
Yeah.
using. Oh
Yeah.
my, like there's, 16 different chemicals in there and artificial sweeteners and, all these other things that
Yeah.
these are, we're putting, I have a lot of sayings. And so I say to people that I work with for the first time, imagine that your body is just like a sneaker factory. You've got
Mm-hmm.
all the equipment to make a sneaker. So I know if I give
Mm-hmm.
you leather or rubber or canvas, we're going to get a sneaker at the end, right? It may change in
Right.
shape or color, but it's going to be a sneaker.
Right.
And
Right.
if I give you, let's put some cell phone parts in your sneaker factory, what would you
Mm-hmm.
say? And,
Yeah.
if we did that, right, if we went to the Nike factory and said, let's try and make a cell phone out of your sneaker equipment, they would,
Right.
send us to the loony bin. And because we
Right.
couldn't do that, because those cell phone parts would break that machinery. We'd have to take those
Yeah.
cell phone parts and put them in a cell phone factory. So I
Mm-hmm.
use that silly little example because
I like
it
it.
is, we have machinery. Our bodies were made to eat and digest and thrive off of food, real food, animal
Mm-hmm.
protein,
Mm-hmm.
vegetables, good fats, things from the earth. But if you walk into the supermarket, there is just tons of things
Oh
from factories,
yeah.
right? Like how
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
factory foods can we eat? And this is not good
Yeah.
for us. So when I use those, it's silly examples for people so they can
No, it's
really
great.
understand, right? This is not food. We're not our body. You want to put cell phone parts in my sneaker factory? It's not going to
Right.
work.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to
Yeah.
break the
Yeah.
equipment.
I love that. It's a great
Yeah.
analogy. Yeah, yeah. What about how, since you were kind of talking about like toxins and additives and things there, like when you were talking about the coffee creamer, how big of a role do you feel toxins play, like right now where we're at in this environment, in regards to like weight gain, or we could talk about autoimmune too. Like how big of a role do you think toxins play in that?
Enormous. Absolutely
Do you?
enormous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the average American female comes in contact with over 200 toxins each morning
Mm-hmm.
just before she's left the bathroom. So if you think about the
Yeah.
shampoo, the conditioner, the moisturizer, the makeup, the nail polish, the hairspray, all these, and
Yeah.
then let's put some perfume on top of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a ton. It's a ton of
Yeah.
chemicals that our liver has to figure out how to get them through the system. And these are
Mm-hmm.
not, from the farm, they're from the factory. So
Yeah.
with that, we haven't even put anything in our mouth yet. So
Right.
if we use foods then after that, and we're having, highly sprayed conventional foods, which basically every restaurant has, right? And
Mm-hmm.
our meat and our chickens and our fish, now they're eating
Yeah.
chemicals as well, and antibiotics and growth hormones. Glyphosate is a huge problem, huge. I think it's really going to affect our fertility in the coming
Mm-hmm.
decade. And
Yeah.
glyphosate, Roundup, that's what we use.
Yep.
That's what conventional farmers use for their produce. And I used to be on a small committee. There was, 20, 25 of us in the room, and big people, big,
Mm-hmm.
all farmers and major producers of natural foods, chairman
Mm-hmm.
of the board of Whole Foods, really, really
Mm.
impactful people in Washington who are making laws. I don't know how I got into this group, but anyway, I was lucky
That's
enough to
awesome.
be in it. Yeah, and we were trying to address GMOs, but one
Oh
of the
yeah.
one of the farmers who's really, really big, you see him on all the documentaries, he was talking about how they did all these tests and they realized that the glyphosate was coming from the rain, because he is an
Oh
organic
boy.
farm, no conventional farms for a couple miles away. And so it
Wow.
wasn't coming, it was coming from the rain. So glyphosate is unfortunately everywhere, and that's a huge endocrine disruptor. And
Yeah.
the FDA has approved 86,000 chemicals for us to use.
Yeah.
86,000. We're approved about
Yeah.
2,000 a year, regardless of who's in the White House. And the people from the FDA go into the White House, and then they go back to they go for Monsanto and Syngenta, and they just
Yeah.
keep going. And
Yeah. I know. Yes.
it's a very sad system that we have. So that's why we have to be so ultra protective of what toxins we're
Right.
putting into our system.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, on a practical level, any top tips you would give people wanting to improve their health through their diet? Like any just very simple top things
Yeah,
you would recommend?
absolutely. So, first one, as we just talked about, is take out the toxins. If it's not from a
Yeah.
farm and it's a chemical that you do not have in your house, don't eat it, right? We should really be
Yeah.
eating foods without a nutritional panel. So, if you think about that, right? So, just take out the
Hmm.
toxins from that right there. People are going to feel amazing. And then take out the inflammatory foods. So, the bread, sugar,
Hmm.
dairy, and alcohol, and just go slowly and pick one and see how you feel. You might have
And you
not
don't,
good.
sorry, I was going to say, and you don't include eggs in that one.
So eggs for autoimmunity is a big factor, sure.
Okay.
But
Okay.
and eggs are a high allergen food, so some people will
Hmm.
react to it, some people don't. I happen to think that eggs are one of the best foods we have.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
uh,
Yeah. So
nutrition
nutritious.
wise, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hesitant to take out eggs right away. If you're having
Hmm.
an issue with eggs, absolutely. If you have autoimmune, take them
Sure.
out.
Gotcha.
If you are you know if you're none of the above, then I would say, keep them unless you it doesn't make a difference, then take them out and see
Sure.
what happens in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, those are the
And
things.
so,
and
and you
and
go
I would
ahead.
say lifestyle is huge. You just referred to that earlier, that your lifestyle affected your thyroid. So
Mm,
sleep, move your body, not too much, not too little,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
good water, clean water, lots of water.
Hmm.
We need to unplug. I have this conversation with everybody because now we're
Mm,
living in a constant. But we need to unplug. We need to laugh. We need to. You don't have to meditate, but you have to
yeah.
get yourself in nature, or just be in a space where you're just not stimulated with something, right?
Yes.
Be
Yeah.
in your
I love
environment.
that message. Yeah, it's huge right now, and I don't think we don't talk about it enough in this space. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that. Okay, one last question. Do you see any like future developments in the future of functional nutrition or autoimmune disease treatment? Anything you kind of see up and coming that you're
Yep.
interested in or might be helpful?
I can tell you a huge open path that is just starting its journey is more specific probiotics. We're seeing
Mm, oh,
probiotics.
yeah.
We're now seeing. I just started carrying a GLP, so that it is more
Mm,
of the satiation. So for the,
mhm.
the microbiome, it's not Wegovy or Ozempic, but
Yeah.
it does the same type of things, but it's more personally customized biome is what we're seeing. We're seeing my
Yeah.
probiotics for the brain, and probiotics for blood sugar, probiotics for weight loss. I'm telling you, this is the area of growth that it's just about to kick off. And I am
Yeah.
so excited for this.
That is super exciting. I've heard a little bit of that as well, just on the cuff, on the edge. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fun to watch what kind of
Yeah.
is up and coming with all that.
Yeah, and postbiotics, the short chain fatty acids,
Mm,
that's so critical. I've been
hmm.
carrying that for a long time, but
Oh,
that is
awesome.
also becoming a little bit more mainstream, short chain fatty acids, because it really creates the diversity of the microbiome, and it really feeds the end of the line, that colon. So it's really,
Sure,
really
sure.
important too. But gut, we're seeing more gut stuff, so it's
I,
good.
mhm. Yeah, love it, love it. Well, anything that I missed in asking you, or anything else you'd like to talk about that I didn't ask you?
Um, Well, we covered toxins. We kind of covered thyroid, right? The only thing
Hmm.
I would say to your listeners are, one diet type does not fit all. So when we get
Yeah,
that new
right.
book, and your neighbor lost 40 pounds on that amazing new diet book, I always say do more personal investigation,
Hmm.
because if you don't have a gallbladder, you're not going to be a good candidate for uh,
For keto. Yeah.
keto. Exactly. And
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
some
yeah.
genetic testing, which is really fun. I offer that as well. And I love the
Oh,
genetic
wow.
piece of it, because it really tells us
Yeah.
mine talks about weight loss as well, like how if you exercise more than the typical recommended hours, will that help you lose weight or not? Well,
Yeah, I
it
love
talks about
that stuff.
vascular health, right? How likely you
Yeah.
are to be deficient in some vitamins, and so you'll have to be cautious about making sure you're getting them through food or supplementation. So, and then how you are with gluten and dairy, and so
Hmm.
I love this. Are you a snacker? Things like that. I
Hmm.
think that I'm hoping that by the time my grandchildren
Hmm.
are born, that they will take their
Yeah.
blood and say, "This is your genetic makeup." Doesn't mean this is
Right.
your future, but it means that this is your genetic makeup. You can make a left and not have to go straight on down that road. And the
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
information you get, the better choices you can make. And we're definitely going in that direction for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
functional medicine, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and really good point there too. I'm a believer in that as well. Like we are all unique and all individual, and especially when it comes to, and that's more my side of the thing, the weight loss piece, but it is kind of like, I mean, in working with clients over the years, and I'm even in my professional, like with mental health therapy, everybody is so unique, and so your approach does have to be so different,
For
but
sure.
particularly with diet and weight loss, even how people's relationship with food is so different. You know, how you kind of started out at the beginning talking about how you grew up with your mom and grandma and how that created this relationship with, like, we all have this unique relationship with food as well. So when it comes to weight loss or just trying to eat for, even if you're not trying to lose weight, but eat for our health, yeah, you have to look at that relationship with food a little bit and intervene on an individual level as well. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Can you let us know where we can get your book? Those sorts of things.
Sure. My You can find me on all social media platforms and my website on Risa, Risa Groux, Groux, nutrition.com, or anything on social media. My book, Food Frame, Diet is a 4-letter word, can be found also on my
Love that.
website, Risa Groux Nutrition. And my agent didn't really like that, but I was like, no, this is what it needs to say.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And and then it's at Target and barnesandnoble.com as well.
Wonderful. And I'll put all your stuff in the show notes too. So our
Great.
listeners can, if they're interested, they can go there and find you really easy. So,
Yeah, and
but
I'm happy
thank
to
you
offer,
so much. Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
happy to offer your listeners 10% off the RGN detox.
Oh,
Yes.
awesome. Okay,
Give me
great.
a code in the
I
show
will
notes as
make sure there's a link there. Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. Might be something I need to try too. So, well, thank
well.
you so much for being here and appreciate all your insight and the information. And yeah, this was a great chat. And I think a lot of information, good information for the listeners.
And thank you for having me, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yes, well, you too. Absolutely. Okay, thanks, Risa.
Take care.
Hi, everyone. Guess what? I have a lovely discount code just for you, my listeners. The code is 10 off. That's 10OFF, and it will get you 10% off any one of my online courses, which now include Mastering Mindful Eating, Overcome Binge Eating, Overeating, and Emotional Eating for Good. And I also have a course on When You Want to Stop the Weight Loss Medication, a comprehensive guide to weight maintenance and mastery. So if you've maybe lost some weight using a medication and you're now wanting to go off the medication but keep the weight off, this is the course for you. And any course you buy, you keep the course for a minimum of 3 years, maybe longer. It just depends on how many are purchased. All courses are self-paced, and I promise you they are practical, meaning they don't just tell you what you need to do. You actually engage in the skills and strategies needed to make actual lasting behavior change. You learn how to do the what. Okay, all courses have multiple modules with multiple lessons. All include lots of examples, tips, and tricks to make things simple and clear. And you also get lots of downloadable resources, including the daily planning template that I use with my own clients, the exact protocol to use after a binge or an overeat has occurred to minimize its damage on your body and your mind. There are protein cheat sheets, research-based journaling prompts, and the literal how-to checklists on the skill you are learning about. And with the weight maintenance course, you also have a movement module that will help you figure out how to make a movement plan that fits your particular lifestyle and level of fitness. And you also have a natural appetite regulation module. So whether if you have never tried an online course to change behavior, or if you have, I just highly would recommend that you try one of these. I've put my heart and soul into both of them. They are all research-based, and now you can get 10% off. So again, that code is 10OFF. If you're ready to make changes that last, you can go to my website, heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen. And from the main menu, click courses, and it will get you to where you want to go. Or you can click on the links in the episode description below the show. And again, as soon as you're there, when you're ready for checkout, just enter the code 10OFF, 10 off. And just a reminder, I also have an ebook cookbook that is now available. It's called Protein Forward Easy Recipes. It includes all high protein recipes, including breakfast and sweet treats full of protein and lunches and dinner. Okay, so again, head to my website. It's probably the easiest thing to do, heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen. And from there, go to courses or the cookbook. And again, use code 10 off at checkout. Did you know you can find a lot more help from me on my website? Go to heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen. And there you will find links to my online courses, how I work with clients one-on-one, as well as online with my coaching and counseling services that I offer. The information in this podcast is intended to provide a broad understanding and knowledge of healthcare topics. This information is for educational purposes only and should not be considered complete and should not be used in place of advice from your physician or healthcare provider. We recommend you consult your physician or healthcare professional before beginning or altering your personal exercise, diet, or supplementation program.